Hi, Maria. Welcome back. Thanks for coming back on. Hi there. Hold on, let me unmute you. There you go. You got muted again. Hold on. There you go.
Oh, darn. Thank you so much for including me.
No problem.
I was trying. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I know I don't have the best signal out here anyways. I was wondering, I sent you a message on Messenger. Was there a way for me to contact, I got the name Connie, but I didn't catch a last name. Is there a way for me to contact her?
Yes. Let's see. Connie Lynn and her. Let's see. I got a Connie. I can send you Connie Reguli. Reguli. Connie Reguli.
I know you guys have mentioned a lot about California. Is she restricted to just that area, or?
No. In fact, she was just in Washington State with parent advocates up in Washington State. She's been in Florida. She was in Tampa, I think, a couple of months ago. And so, she's going all over the place. She's one of them. There's Sean McMillan here in California. He's doing some major pushes for legislative change and for family and parental rights to be reaffirmed in the state of California and in many states across the country. Parental rights are not recognized as fundamental rights. And, parents with disabilities are one of the highest targeted groups of parents in this country. In fact, in the state of California, they've just recently passed some laws where if you are disabled and are not gainfully employed, you don't really have rights to your children. They say they're their children. The states across this country are saying these are their children, not parents' children. And so this is a fundamental issue that we need to be speaking out on. That these states, which are corporation, it's a part of the corporation of the United States of America, states cannot own children. They cannot own people at all, period. And we need to be standing up and protesting with like Dale was saying, every day, going to our legislative offices, going to the capitals, going everywhere. And Ted was on earlier. I know that he's been working all day, very tired. I'm very grateful that he came on for that first 40 minutes. And I want to thank you all for joining back on too. It's, still working out all the kinks for sure. But yeah, we just need to start talking to people who are not even parents. So, because every time I go out there and talk to people, they have no idea what's going on in this country. They don't have children. They have absolutely no idea.
It's unbelievable.
There's a whole bunch of millennials that have come into their rank right now where they're having children, having families, and they're wanting to live an alternative lifestyle where money isn't the big deal. And, they're going to be targeted for living an alternative lifestyle. I mean, this is already happening. So, yeah, we really got to step it up.
Yeah, no doubt.
Dale wanted to continue talking and
the fellow that was on before, and I'll continue the conversation because this is really critical, Lyra. I mean, to understand how the law is structured. What the Congress did by abdicating to executive privilege is establish nationally administrative law. Now, what this means that all the executives of these states and the president can appoint boards like the contractors board, the nursing board, all these boards that have appointed positions and they can establish law that's unconstitutional. But by executive authority, create these laws that are actionable, that they pull out of their rear end, knowing full well that the people that this instrument's being used against have no way to defend themselves, because the average individual is not going to sue the Attorney General and the state of California. I did. Okay. And well, first of all, you have to find an attorney that's willing to put his license up on the chopping block and make enemies. Because the bar is another administrative issue, and you can get disbarred by bringing a case which they feel has no merit. Okay, so the reason why you don't see the state legislatures or the federal government not doing anything, because they don't have to. Okay, there is a regime in place that's not constitutional, and it's under the heading of administrative law. So, which has nothing to do with civil law, doesn't have to be constitutional, and it's executive privilege that. So, okay, go hire $100, $300 an hour attorneys and take it on if you want to. Well, it's not happening and nothing's changing.
Yes.
The Congress that wants to be reelected, if they've got a condition of perpetual war, they don't want to have to get 2/3 of the Congress to approve a military action.
Right.
So this is where it starts. They can start a Vietnam, they can start an Iraq, they can start a nuclear war. Okay? And the people are no longer a part of the government.
Right.
The government is a separate institution functioning for its own benefit.
Yes.
So
Daya has risen his hand, and if it's okay, Dale, could he?
yeah,
Right.
I just say this is one of the constructions that we have to take down.
Yes.
Is administrative law.
Absolutely. Daya,
Sure.
hold on. I unmuted you. There you go. Ah, no, hold on. You muted again. Hold on. Okay, let me unmute. Okay, you're unmuted. Go for it.
My question is, Dale, I think, like, do you have links to that stuff that who helped you sue the Attorney General? Because we should all do that, because just like right now I'm trying to recall a judge. If everybody keeps doing that, I think they'll relent under enormous pressure.
Well, this is where it gets complicated. In this case, it was my daughter. Okay, and what it was, she was a registered nurse, and she found herself in a place where she was with people that there was just drugs with intent to sell. Okay, that was the charge. And well, it starts, a young woman gets a young single woman gets a high paying career, and she's being romanced and financed by very, very wealthy doctors and physicians and healthcare professionals, and all of a sudden it starts with a little, well, yeah, I'll try a little of that, and then it devolves into a full blown addiction. Okay, so she found herself in a place where she lost her license, had a felony, and the first step was expulsion of the felony. Okay, now the thing of it is, the nursing board, being an administrative agent of the executive government, they can set their own rules. So it was actually double indemnity. She went through a full rehab program, and then it was a residential program, and she had to fulfill all the rules and regulations. And once she fulfilled that, the felony was expunged. Now she has to go to the administrative law court and get her license reinstated. Okay, we got absolutely no response from them. They had already determined that she was never going to get her license back. And keep in mind, my daughter has no history of any criminal activity in her whole life at all. This is a first offense. And so I went to a number of attorneys, and it was always, well, we'll make a plea. We'll plead to a lesser charge, and we'll do this, and then she'll get her license back. And I says, that's not acceptable. Okay, it's unacceptable for her to have any criminal record as a result of this. And so it was always plea bargain, plea bargain, plea bargain, plea bargain, until I met an Italian attorney, Bill Troiani, and I had a discussion with him, and he says, I said, well, what are you going to do? I said, he says, I'm going to sue the Attorney General. Now that's a decision you make as a professional of the courts, an officer of the courts, that puts you at risk, because the administrative laws that they have put in place, they have advocates and they have powerful adversaries that want those laws to remain there. Well, and so he did it, and it ended. All of a sudden he starts to get his license dinged, and is suspended, and he's fighting cobwebs, but cobwebs with big spiders behind him, and so when you say you're going to take on administrative law, you've got a handful, because you've got the executive offices of all these states plus the president of the United States, and this is why, if you notice in elections, they pay really, really, really close attention about who's in the governor's office.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Really, really close attention.
There's only one governor per state.
That's what's running the country.
Yeah.
The Congress and the Senate are not running the country.
No.
Administrative law is, and they're pulling these laws out of their ass that have no basis, no constitutional connection at all. It's just whatever they think. And if you disagree with it, well, take them to court.
I've written letters to the governor of the state of California before regarding my case, and he has straight up passed them on with regard for.
I'll be more graphic about it, Lyra. He filed them in the round file.
Ah, there you go. Yeah, no. Well, there's the ombudsman.
So what we have become as citizens of the country, we have no country.
No. Well,
Now this is a conclusion that really I understood in 1965, because I was surrounded by people that had a tremendous amount of knowledge about politics and economics. And so I'm like a ghost, voice in the wilderness. Nobody, they look at me and say, well, you're out of your mind. But now it's all coming true. And it was the framers of this Constitution, put it this way, Lyra, we're going to have a free economy as long as we can. But if we can't, we're going to go into a totalitarian state, just like all the other countries that have failed for the last 800 years. And they're just trying to do it in a kinder or gentler way. But the brutality is already in place, and you've experienced it yourself.
Yeah, losing your child to somebody and having that child go into a perfect stranger's house and then being put through the trauma repeatedly is cruel and unusual punishment. This is not
so
right.
what does that make it incumbent on us we've got to be very, very clever.
Mhm.
And I look at the examples of Mahatma Gandhi. I look at the examples of Martin Luther King. I look at the examples of Cesar Chavez. And I look at the examples of Nelson Mandela and Bishop Tutu. When I say effective strategies and tactics, we have got to get more organized than they are, and put the spear point where it's going to kill the beast. You know, so and this is something that we have to really, really work together on and think about and strategize about and move forward, but keeping nonviolent, being reasonable, being deferring to somebody, and having an adult conversation about what really is best for our country and our world.
Amen to that, Dale. There's a movie that's coming out or has just come out called Selma, and it's about the Black rights movement and a specific scenario where men and women in the Black rights community join together and work together to persevere
Now
against white supremacists, and that's a movie we should be watching.
And this hysteria is brought about because they're at the end of their rope. We've got a lot of hysterical, angry, rich white men that are at the abyss of losing their power.
Yeah, they're very worried.
This thing, and we got 300 million handguns, and we've got, unfortunately, a lot of uneducated, undisciplined people that don't have any emotional intelligence and can't think their way out of a paper bag and act on impulse. And so this chemistry of this situation is volatile and highly dangerous. And so when we look at our organization that we're putting together here of people and places, it's time for some very serious thinking.
Yes, and strategizing, and I actually have whiteboards. I have whiteboards, and I'm gonna start putting things together, and do trees like
and I might add,
Family Rights Party.
And I might add, it may not be the noisiest voice in the crowd that gets the greatest results.
Right.
So I want to focus on subtlety and nuance, and I want this thing to happen in a way where we're not down shooting our bullhorns off on the county steps, but we're very quietly and systematically going about making a change. And what we want to happen is they say, well, gee, how did that happen? That's great. Well, there was and so if we do the right kind of thinking, and we put together the right strategy, and we move very subtly and firm but gentle,
right,
is the word.
Well,
we don't want to confiscate anybody's property. We don't want to take anybody's rights. We don't want any violent action. We just want to see intelligent, reasonable change. Okay, and have that happen in the law, which will be a really a big event in itself. A refreshing change. That the common sense comes back to the public square.
Well, one of the first things we're doing here is it's about educating people who are parents, who are grandparents, who are aunts and uncles, and talking about what's in place. Daya, you wanted to say something. Go for it. Let me unmute you.
I have a question. So how long is this going to take? Because our children are growing and we're not seeing them. I mean, if this is going to take 20 years, I mean...
This has been going on for over 20 years. I mean, if you think about it, but
if you're looking... I'm going to say, if you're looking for quick results, we may be dead and gone before the benefits are here. Now, the question in everybody's mind is, if you're just interested in your particular situation for yourself, I don't have an answer for you. But I know this is a problem that is going to go down to your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren and your great-great-grandchildren. So the question is, how long did it take to end apartheid? How long did it take to establish civil rights? You chip away at it, and you make incremental improvements over time. But you've got to start with, you've got to come up with the effective strategy that no matter what is going to be successful. And this is going to take sacrifice. This is going to take a lot of hard work. This is going to take an effort on everybody's part, or else we just live with the status quo.
You got to put your ego under a rock. Put your I mean, this is personal. This is extremely personal.
I'll say it short. Listen, I'll say it short and sweet, and not monopolize the airways. My uncle had a saying: everybody must prosper, or everybody will eventually starve, and that's the infinite justice in the universe. So if it's just a quick fix that every individual is seeking for himself, well, that's what we have now. I take care of mine, you take care of yours, everything will be fine. The fact of the matter is that we are all part of one another. We are all one. When one is harmed, all are harmed.
And when one is helped, all are helped.
So until we embrace this infinite justice, that we're part of a system, that we don't function independently, and we're here for each other's benefit, and we look at everybody's welfare. If everybody's taken care of, then I'm taken care of. And so that's the systemic change that has to take place. But in the meantime, we can look at these and look at the great successes of the men. Look what happened in India. Look what happened in South Africa. Look what happened in actually getting the civil rights as a cornerstone in our culture. Supporting the freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of the press, and we've got Nazis in office that are telling us that the media is the enemy of the people. The press, the thing that we depend on to educate us, and so this world, this bizarre world, has been turned to, what we've normally accepted as norms, aren't norms anymore. And this has to do with, they say that, well, to hell with representative government and majority, we'll just run things as an executive office, just like the king, and so the eyes have it. I don't have an answer for I want to get it done right now. Well, and and my I used to come up with these bright ideas with my friend Craig, and he'd say, yeah, well, you're going to do wonders of shit marigolds, and I can't do that. I don't have a magic solution for every individual's dilemma or circumstance. I just know that if we build a strong organization and we work together, we can affect change.
Perseverance prospers. Maria has risen her hand, and so if we could let Maria speak. Hold on.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So I share in Daya's frustration, because I'm like, yeah, our children are growing, but I'm not looking for a quick fix, and I'm willing to join the war. I'm willing to help others fight for what I believe is right. But what do you do? I mean, is there something we can file? Our constitutional rights have been violated. Is it a good thing to go to the press, or are they going to twist that and turn that against us?
This is really important, Lyra, because every one of us in our respective area, one size doesn't fit all. Okay, so what works in your community may not work in Daya's community. He has to, you have to work with the things that are real and that you can work of. It makes sense to you, okay, within your conscience, and then as a collective, we all have these different, flavors and aspects and approaches, but it all adds up to a major change. I don't see just all of us gathering in one place and working at once, as much as I see each one of these individual intentional communities functioning independently, but as a group, as a cohesive alliance. And 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 then what we can do is we say when we see a strategy or a tactic that is really extraordinarily successful, then we can adopt it. So I think the biggest thing is sharing our own individual stories so that we can accelerate. I'm all for accelerating the rate of change, and that's the magic. That's the magical, and this is, I'll take Al Qaeda and the people that put that together, because what they did is they came over here and they used our schools to learn how to fly our airplanes and use our airplanes to crash and destroy our buildings. Now, I think those are people that the Pentagon should take lessons from, because they managed to do with little or nothing what takes us $100 million. And another example of this is a Buckminster Fuller idea, is Bill Gates. Well, he could have gone down into Africa and said, well, I'm going to cut the infant mortality rate in half. And he could have built a $150 million administration building and brought out the bands and all this stuff. But no, he didn't do that. He got some fish. So he got some mosquito nets, and he got some antiviral drugs and some little motor scooters to deliver the drugs to the small villages. And he looked at the water systems and did a little bit with the sewage and the water systems, and did something with the wells, and a combination of all these little not such magnificent things. He had a tremendous impact. So what we've got to find are those little things that we can do that are going to make a significant difference in the way things are, and do it individually where you are, but work as a group to facilitate what action you think you should take, because everybody's place is valid, everybody's idea is valid, and that's what we have to be. We have to be patient and tolerant of other people's ideas. Because some of the stuff is counterintuitive. What on the surface you'd say, well, what the hell do you want to do that for? That may be the very strategy that produces the best results.
And if your human rights have been violated, Maria, you say you want to know where else you can go if you've gone all the way to the Supreme Court and the federal. You can go to the federal Supreme Court and file charges, civil rights violations charges, and rights to your fundamental rights. And if you can even go higher to the Human Rights Tribunal, which, people think that has to do with the United Nations, and it doesn't have to do with the United Nations. Actually, the Human Rights Tribunal is put together by people in the United States of America based on the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which the United States, along with over 50 other countries, has signed. It was ratified in the United States in 1992. And part of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is the right of any human citizen of a state or country that has signed this declaration to be able to create a peer-to-peer tribunal of their own, which is a court that is higher ranking than the federal Supreme Court. Okay.
Well, the problem
Human
the
rights
problem with that
violations.
the problem with that, Lyra, is the most powerful nations in the world. All they have to, China, the United States, Russia, all they have to do is choose not to recognize it. And all these other countries that depend on the major powers to function from the standpoint of world trade and currency and defense agreements and power agreements and all these things that affect these countries, they succumb to the will of the most powerful nations. And,
I understand what you're
because
saying, Dale. I do. And if we continue with the de facto courts and the way that this country is being run by the corporation, and they're not going to recognize it. But one of the things that I just hope we can do through filing these human rights violations is that there's they can put liens on states. The Human Rights Tribunal can put a lien on a state for violations of human rights against an individual.
Well, Cheney, President Bush and Cheney were already convicted of war crimes and are criminals, and there's an example where there was an illegal war that was, and the judgment was rendered against the executives and their officers, basically the whole cabinet, and they got the ruling, but they don't have the power to enforce it. And that's the difference between a good law and a bad law. A good law is one you can enforce.
Right.
Now you can make, and this is, what Trump is doing is he's signing all these executive orders, administrative law, and they really don't mean anything, because he's just, he might as well, do anything else that's irrelevant. But so this gets really murky, and the final analysis, what really dominates things is the will of the people. Now, do we have the collective will to organize this in a fashion over this specific issue to get traction in the state and the federal government? And it's an individual choice. And so now this is a skill of community organizing. What are the compelling arguments to make everybody realize that this has to be done before anything else? And I'll bring up the argument by the social scientists and historians that they pretty much agree that once you destroy the family unit, you're toast. And so we're talking about our civilization, our Western civilization, because basically what we've done is destroy families.
And if you listen to the politicians, especially even Donald Trump, he's talking about bringing back, the structure to support families and this. So
I mean, we understand the challenge. We understand the risk. We understand all of this has to be changed. But then the question is, are we willing to make the sacrifices to make it happen?
Right. That is the question.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
we have 6 minutes, and so if you can wrap it up.
I want to say this is my first time being here. I've been trying to get here for a long time, and I apologize if I've dominated the narrative here. But I told Lyra when I first came on, I really do want to spend a lot of time listening because I'm a little late to the party. But
you have great information to share. Thank you so much, Dale.
So I'm here to do whatever has to be done. Okay, that's where I am now. Having said that, I also want to spend some time to find out not a strategy, but the best strategy that gets the quickest results. Okay, and
I got my whiteboard. We can talk about it.
okay. And on that note, I'll see you next Saturday. It's a time for meditation. Everybody have a great Thanksgiving, and let's pray for the light and the wisdom that we need to move forward and be successful. You know, that's because it's all about knowledge and wisdom.
Amen.
And that comes from outside of us. You know.
All right, Maria, would you like to go next? All right.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Wonderful. Yes, no, exactly like you were saying, Dale. You know, it's knowledge. Like I can want to build a house, but if I don't have the knowledge of doing it, you know, or I don't have the right resources, it's for nothing. You know, it's just a dream. And the frustration is, of course, I want my own children, you know, but I know that this is a problem that's bigger than just me, and I'm willing to do the work, but it's like, where do I start? And I appreciate your input, but I'm still a little bit confused, you know, on where to start. I'm just following, I guess.
Well, ask questions. That'll get you some answers. Talk to Ted. Talk to
Maria.
people.
I want to, Maria, I want to put it right where it belongs. You got to sit down and with your own conscience and make that decision, and it has nothing to do with us. They had a World Council of Churches, Congress of Conscience, approximately 10 years ago or more. And all of the members of the World Council of the Churches said the supreme arbiter of all things concerning human beings is the individual conscience. Over and above a religion, a belief, a doctrine, a priest or preacher or bishop or pope. So this is where so that you can face yourself in the mirror and say, and after entertaining the idea and thinking and knowing and reasoning, and it comes down to what is Maria going to do, you're going to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and this is why I'm going to do it, and that's what my creator, my universe tells me, based on what I understand, and that's all you can do. Just do what you can do according to your reach. You know, it doesn't have to be big. It just has to be what you think is best for you.
Thank you.
All right, Daya, you want to say something? Hold on, let me unmute you. You're on. All right, go.
No, I think this is good information. I think what Dale's talking about is very high level strategy, and I know you said you're looking for the best strategy, but sometimes it's just better to even have a strategy, because a lot of these parents have been fighting by themselves, and then they're just throwing drops of water into the ocean, and it's and that's all they can do. You can't blame them, and that's what I've been doing, throwing drops of water in the ocean. It makes no difference. But I think what we also need is a tactical strategy besides the big strategy. We need a tactical strategy, because we all have kids, and we want to have our kids. We want to spend time with them while they're young. You know, it's pointless when the kids are 20 years old, because they don't want to be with you anymore anyway. So, and besides fighting for our own kids, we also have to sort of help everybody else, because otherwise it's not going to work either. Because the minute I have my kids, then it's not like, hey, goodbye guys, I'm gone. You still want to stay in the fight, because otherwise it's going to happen to somebody else.
Yes, that's true. And we have 1 minute left. We have one other person to say goodbye, and then I want to thank you all for joining tonight, and go to the coalition for protection.com to see what we're working on. And if you want to join the efforts of putting together the information or becoming a parent advocate, please contact us. And
pleasure to meet you guys. Have a great Thanksgiving. Love you all. See you next week.
Yes.
We just keep on the path, Daya. We just keep
Yes.
on the path. That's all.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, somebody will get an idea. It might be your 5-year-old daughter, and say, "This is going to work." We're in a process of discovery. We've got to find what we got to do. Okay, we're not following any leaders. What's best for us to do to solve this particular problem.
I want to talk with you later, Daya, about strategy. We are going to put together some stuff.
Okay.
Absolutely. We got to put some